Hi, I'm Pablo Aslan. I'm a tango musician and producer, and I'm here sitting in Edouard Pecourt's tango room, which for us tangologists is a dream room. This is like Disneyland for tango scholars. And I'm flanked by all these 78 RPM recordings, original recordings, and I happen to be right next to a complete collection of 78s recorded by Carlos Gardel, the great tango singer. This is one of the crowning achievements of Pecourt's work that includes not only the whole chronological discography, but it has a few boxes of rarities, including foreign editions of his recordings, some master demonstration recordings where they would make, after the recording, they would make some very few samples to choose the takes that they would finally publish. There's a number of those. There's some autographed copies. So there's a lot of treasures in here, just in the Gardel section, which takes up just 1.5 of these shelves. We don't know yet if it's a complete discography, but we think that it's very close to being as complete a discography as there is, certainly in North America, and comparable to one of the collections in Argentina and Uruguay, of all the recorded tango history. For those of us who study tango, we understand the importance of the original recordings that started in around 1910 or so. Artists like Francisco Canaro and Roberto Firpo, that we have hundreds of recordings of them, and it's all very carefully filed. And over here at the desk, we have actually the sort of the decoding of this whole pile of material, and this is where Edouard spent his days, when he was not out in the field collecting, and he would create these albums where he would detail the discographies of each of the artists that he collected, and he has all kinds of cross-referenced books in this stack of folders. So he was not just purchasing and storing this material. He was also analyzing it and creating these documents, these discographies that are just so important for us to understand what went on. Edouard started in the 1950s with a record shop and as a record importer in Paris, and he was also doing consulting for Odeon, the label in Paris, and so he was importing a lot of the tango recordings from Buenos Aires, and Odeon was doing it on his behalf as well, and he was consulted as an expert. So he has all of that collection. So we also have a very complete collection of tango on LP. Just by finding a folder in this wealth of information of personal correspondence between Piazzolla and Edouard Pecourt, I've been able, since I've been here, to elucidate a lot of details about a project that I'm involved in with Piazzolla's music. These are letters from Piazzolla to Pecourt, dating from the mid-50s all the way to the 1970s. And in my case, I was researching a 1959 recording, and I've been able to actually find out information that is quite original. Okay. Well, continuing with the tour of the Pecourt collection, we come to a closet, which is affectionately known as the hall closet. And this is something that actually, as a scholar, this is, for me, this is very valuable. We have in the back the complete volumes of Sintonia magazine, which is a radio magazine from the 1930s, and this is where you find out about the artists and about the radio stations and about the interaction between Argentine tango and the Hollywood industry, and just in general the ambiance of the 1930s in Buenos Aires. And also magazines of the time, so that a lot of lyrics used to be published, and so there's a ton of material that gives us the context of where these recordings were coming from, how popular they were, which ones were the ones that people were really paying attention to. There are also boxes and boxes of record catalogs, which are very useful in compiling discographies, which is also useful for scholars in terms of having a chronology of how all these recordings fit into the timeline. So this closet alone has so much material for scholars to interpret all this recorded history. Is very valuable. We come to this room where we have a very sizable a collection of CDs, not just like I said, duplicating the material, but also in this case, we have the entire record industry shifting to CDs in the 80s, and so we have a very thorough bird's-eye view of the last 20 or 30 years of tango history. But some things that are very interesting to me about this is that we found the complete Carlos Gardel discography, and as you can see, most of it unopened, of course, because he had the originals. But this is quite a quality transfer, which would allow any library to immediately be able to access the Gardel discography before going and digitizing the 78 RPM and going directly to the rarities in the 78 RPM collection. So this is also a very valuable source. And we keep finding things as we go around. This is a box of Piazzolla clippings and correspondence. So we really get a sense of this relationship between Piazzolla and Edouard. There's lots of notes and things pertaining to Piazzolla. There's annotations of different. So even just these boxes, we imagine that a lot of researchers and students could just uncover a lot of relationships in the music. So we're now in the den, and this is where we have a lot of the literature about tango that would help understand the context. Anywhere from collections of Japanese magazines, the well-known Latina magazine that has a lot of record reviews, so we can get a sense of what the discography is, especially contemporary discography. Club de Tango, which is run from Buenos Aires by collectors, very complete collections of these magazines. There are, for instance, huge collections of magazines from the 40s and 50s, which are extremely useful in putting together just the ambiance. A lot of these magazines have listings of where the orchestras were playing, of which singer started singing with which orchestra, and your favorite orchestra is playing at. And here's a listing of all the very well-known orchestras: Héctor Varela, Armando Pontier, Roberto Carlos, Osvaldo Pugliese, Alfredo Gobi. There's at least 2 sets of complete Cantando magazine. This is something that the scholars, the tango scholars, really value because of this context that it gives you. We have all the major sources, the encyclopedias, El Libro del Tango, the work of Ferrer. There's a lot of literature on Buenos Aires and on Argentina. There's more of these magazines that we've seen. So this is a wonderful way of providing context. There's books on folklore. There's really a lot of sources for really getting a much bigger picture. Another highlight of this room is all the videos. We have not only in the collection we have original reels of Carlos Gardel movies, but we also have an enormous amount of material, mostly on VHS tape. It's all the visual material of tango, all the movies that include tango, clips of orchestras. This is a systematic taping of the Tango channel, the 24-hour cable Tango channel that has original productions of music and dance, has very valuable interviews by tango scholars. So everybody who was alive, who could speak about their time and about the artists that they were with, they interviewed, and there's a lot of original programming that they created. Edouard's custom, he's gone over every single one of these tapes and notated the playlist and the numbering for every one of these tapes. So this is, again, this is something that a lot of people are going to get information from, being able to see all the major dancers. All the major dance clubs were filmed in there, all the major artists, and all kinds of performances from all the eras of filmed tango. This is sheet music. There are an estimated 500 pieces of sheet music in each one of these boxes and down there. And as you can see, it's not just about the music, but it's about all the wonderful art in every one of these pieces that just provide us with a sense of just how important tango was. I mean, look at the detail in this. It's obvious that having such a thorough collection of sheet music to go with the historical context of magazines and with a complete discography, the sky's the limit in terms of how much research we can do and all the information that we can get from this collection. Here's a manuscript of the famous piano cadenza of Adios Nonino that introduced Piazzolla's signature piece. And this is obviously something that has gone around and been played hundreds of times. And this is a manuscript that was not just donated to Edouard, but it was dedicated to my friend Edouard Pecourt. With all my love, Astor Piazzolla. We also have a lot of these live concerts of Piazzolla of different eras. Here we have a concert, Piazzolla, Buenos Aires, 1976. We have concerts of the Octeto Buenos Aires from 1956, which are priceless. Some TV concerts from the 60s as well. Here's some radio broadcast of Piazzolla and his string orchestra from the 50s. There's an enormous amount of material that has never been heard by the world. So there's also the potential of really completing our knowledge of this great artist. Another thing that Edouard did is he worked as a consultant for record labels in France in the 1950s and 60s, and so we have a box of compilations that he directed and that he also wrote the liner notes for. Some of the very valuable photos that he has autographed. Astor Piazzolla, of course, dedicated to Pecourt from 1964, and the great Aníbal Troilo from May 1956. Here's the Gardel, autographed Gardel record. Okay, so this is just a very unique piece, a very valuable piece indeed. And some of original Gardel posters on canvas. So these are not just reproductions of Gardel's movies from the 1930s. So we're here in another aspect is these books. I've been collecting tango books for 15 years or so, and I can tell you that this is a very thorough collection. I've identified a lot of the major books about Gardel, about tango. There's collections like La Historia del Tango, which is very important. A lot of the sources that are very hard to find, like El Tema del Tango en la Literatura Argentina. There are also other like ancillary books about the times as well. We've seen this in other parts of the collection. Literature that has to do with the times of the tango, especially the origin. But I've been able to see every major book in the literature in this shelf and the shelves and boxes downstairs.